Hello, hello, hello. I feel like I start a lot of episodes off like that.
Yeah, it's always that, or it's always the same like three things that we always overlap. Oh, is that the beginning of the podcast? I'm sorry.
It is.
I'm not even here, dog. This week we are separated once again, but this time there is no dog in our video. And this time, instead of mimosa, I have a Ale Smith Black Velvet Oatmeal Stout.
Ooh, you fancy?
Looks fancy, don't it?
Looks fancy, don't it? Black Velvet, okay.
Mm-hmm. What you drinking?
Water and some Phil's coffee today.
I started making matchas. Man, I just made my first matcha couple of days ago. Man, it was so perfect. Like, I'm never going to buy anything again. I feel like I do everything amazing. It was so good. It made me want to make one. It was so good.
I vouch for her. Her coffee is immaculate. But also, have you tried it, making matcha with the vanilla bean paste from Trader Joe's?
With the what?
Vanilla bean paste.
No, because I have another, like a sweet cream and oat milk thing that I do.
Oh, man.
But I can imagine that makes sense.
Oh, delightful.
Also throw a little lavender in it.
Oh, yeah. Where do you get your lavender from? Mm-hmm. Where do you get your lavender from?
They got the ceremonial grade matcha too.
What? She over here doing rituals in the morning, y'all. I need to step my game up.
I ain't doing no rituals. Well, I just decided to send him $5.25 around the corner.
Valid.
So I was like, but my coffee's been sucking though lately because instead of the French press, those mocha pots that you put on the. I started doing that and it was fine at first. And I don't know if it's because once I've washed it enough times or if the metal has changed, the coating came off. I don't know. But it's like I'm burning it. It has this bitter taste. Like I don't know how I'm cooking it or how I'm making it, but I think my coffee is like overcooking. So it has this weird taste. So my coffee hasn't been that
Starbucks.
Awesome. What's that supposed to mean?
Burning coffee.
Their coffee be tasting all right to me. Well, sometimes. I went there today. Just because I like the textures or the creaminess of like if you get like chestnut praline or like something else in it. But you're right. It doesn't taste. It tastes sometimes kind of syrupy-ish or kind of like not like coffee after you've been making your own. But with the mocha pot, I don't know. I just haven't got it. Or it used to be good at first, but now it's not. I don't know what it is, but I was trying to Google. But my matcha has been on point though.
Shout out to that. That's always a good day when you find something like that. If you haven't, that, like I said, that Trader Joe's paste elevates matcha like with some oat milk.
Yeah, I bet.
Delightful. So what are we talking?
Creamy, though.
What are we talking about today?
I don't know. Look, I just got here. I don't know. Let me pull up my notes. Today, boys and girls, we are talking about delegation.
Man, I thought about this as a topic because we discussed entrepreneurship a couple of weeks ago, perhaps. Yes. And I was trying to think of untraditional topics that around entrepreneurship. And I know you're thinking, well, delegation, that's not necessarily untraditional. But when you think about the conversations that you hear around entrepreneurships, it's about starting up, about trying to find investors, about building your team, about doing these things. But there are so many intricacies and nuances of building a business and being an entrepreneur that aren't discussed. And how to delegate is a big one. I saw one of my friends on Twitter was talking about, like, man, why is it so hard for me to delegate? And I know that it's something that I've struggled with and something that I've seen Lexi excel and get better at, like, over the time that we've been friends and as she's been building Capsoch. And so I thought it would be a great topic to discuss today.
Yeah, so delegation is a game changer. For me, I first saw anything kind of really about it in a way that made me consider it and start to utilize it when I read the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And essentially, that book is about how to get more things done in a way that you're doing less. And also, when I feel like when you look around, people you view as successful, or I guess I can speak for myself, because even some like friends who are very successful, like, have homes, have multiple businesses, etc. they also have like a business manager. It looks like they don't even do anything because, they have all the pieces in place for other folks to take care of things. And then they get calls when they need to or participate where they need to. But I see them live a life that feels like the exact opposite of that whole like extra hustler type vibe that we see when people talk about business ownership and entrepreneurship a lot. So to me, I realized like, like it shouldn't have to feel like, you're doing everything. It shouldn't have to feel like just hustling. And it might at a certain point for sure. But if you're serious about entrepreneurship or business ownership, it should get to a place where you do have other people that allow you to scale and allows you to not have to be the person doing all these things that's not necessarily in your, best skill set.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's why it's important. It's like they're in this culture of like constantly hustling. It's like, oh man, you have like 11 jobs. It's like, yeah, and they're all jobs until they're able to coexist like without you be physically being there. And that's something that you've touched on, but you also just mentioned. It's like they have all these businesses, but they're not the person making everything happen. And I think in a very realistic way, we have to think about that. I know me as an entrepreneur, I'm not there yet. Like my business can't function without me there. And so I'm like, damn, I got to hire people and learn how to delegate and build those systems so that they can. Until then, I have a job, but it's for myself because nothing, like I don't get paid if I'm not there. And so it's like delegation is a very important skill in scaling and in being able to do more than, one thing with quality. I think it's super important.
Yeah. And I would define delegation as handing off tasks and, well, I guess it's just no work tasks. So handing off tasks to other folks who are capable of handling those things. Is there anything deeper to that?
I think
that I'm missing.
I think that the definition, the textbook definition of it, which I really liked, is delegation is providing, I'll say people, with something to do within basic parameters and giving them the authority to make their own decisions on what steps to take to achieve the objective, offering support and training as necessary, allowing your team members a degree of autonomy and ownership if you really want the benefit. But the important distinction for me here is it's not just giving away tasks that you don't like, and it's not giving people things and then micromanaging them like while they have them. Like that is not delegation.
It's not if you're micromanaging because now you're still doing work, but if you give people tasks to do, I think I technically think that's still delegation. Like if you're like, check my emails or respond to my emails or create these decks or whatever it is, like you're still giving them something else to do. But I do agree that it's very important for them to have a sense of autonomy to where, they can actually be good at that or they have something to offer creatively or however to that task. And so you're allowing them to just get it done because now you're not involved in any way. So if you're like kind of micromanaging and or you need it to be exactly this or that, or you need to be talked to like every other step of the way, then now it's like you know I just did it.
Mm-hmm. Are you good at delegation? Like what has that journey, like learning to delegate, been like for you?
I have not always been good at it. Sometimes I'm not good now. But what that depends upon is how clear I am on the task and how much of a system there is for the task. So in the past, I've tried to build a team, but I was doing what we just said, where it's like I'm doing it with them, or we're figuring it out, or they need me throughout that process. And so it's not very effective. Versus there have been times where, okay, I've gotten the system very clear to where I can pass that along and have them just run through and get things done. So I think it depends on like how clear the task is and also how clear the outcome is of what you want to come from that as well.
Absolutely. And that's so perfect because I recently did the same thing. I hired someone to be an assistant and help me do things, but I wasn't clear exactly on what I needed them to do and what the outcome was. And so it was kind of just spinning my wheels. It's like, well, why are they here if you don't know these things yourself? And so your girl had to go back to the drawing board. I am not currently great with delegation. In my own business, I would say that if it's with things at the gym or when because I'm on the board of a nonprofit. So whenever I'm doing work with them, I'm good at delegating those tasks. But with my own stuff, not so much. I'd be struggling a little bit. So working on that.
What's the difference there?
I would say clarity. Like I know what needs to get done and there's a system. So all of the words that you said make it so much easier to be good at delegation. So shout out to Lanicia, the owner of Thrive. She's really great at systems and she's super OCD around those things, around outcomes. So it's really easy for me to see that and be like, oh, I know how to get here, and then to instruct or to do things that way. With the nonprofit, Charlie is very similar with Change the Tune. And it's like, oh, we need to do this. Okay, well, this is an idea to get there. And then I think this person will be good at this. We should hire an intern for this and then do this. But I wonder if mine is one, just because I'm not clear, maybe also because I'm doing something that I've never seen done before, or at least in ways that I haven't seen being done. And then third, maybe because it's my stuff that it's a little bit harder to let go of, that control or that need to feel like my hands have to be on things. So I think it's probably a mix of all three of those things.
Yeah, that's fair, and that makes sense. But also, could you be looking at Lala's and Charlie's through a different lens, whereas you're not maybe seeing, or have you even really thought to ask them about, hey, how do you feel about delegation and, you know, what you learned and what your practice has been? Because maybe to you it feels a certain way, or maybe, you know, you're looking at it from the lens of just seeing it now that it's good, but, you know, is it necessarily that they're awesome at it, or are you just giving them more grace about it? I mean, not that they might not be awesome at it, but
yeah, no, I think they both know they both admittedly struggle with it. I was saying with me, my role in their organizations, I'm able to delegate better. So not talking about their roles of delegation.
Your role.
Yeah, my role in their organizations, I can delegate tasks and responsibilities. So not them, even though they both have admitted that they struggle with it, which as, you know, successful women, business owners and entrepreneurs, I think it's important to talk about these things as people in general, but especially as those things, because they both have said it. But me looking at myself within these existing systems, I'm better at delegating and giving people things to do and that, as opposed to like in creating my own systems.
But is that because with your own, you have 500 different things going on at once, whereas when you're working with somebody else, you already probably have like a space.
Yeah.
So it's a much more narrow space probably to work within.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think as a business owner too, it's really hard, but that's kind of what you have to do, is be able to, and I spent time at one point with the spreadsheet making columns like marketing, this, onboarding, sales, and like what are all these different spaces where you need systems, and like identifying that first. And then like, at least it kind of helped me if I want to focus, like I'm focusing on this one space and like, all right, what do I need to do here? What needs to be done? And looking at it in different pieces instead of like, it's so overwhelming, everything at once in front of you. And so it is one of those things where I feel like you do kind of just have to like break it down in a little pieces, because everything needs a system, but it's so hard, especially as a small team, to get work done and jot down how you're doing it, or like how it should be done. And maybe it feels like you don't know how some things should be done. So I think delegation can come from you being familiar with what you want to happen and how it should happen, and you getting that down and passing it along. But sometimes also I think delegation, and especially as you get to a certain point, delegation comes from you have no idea, but now I'm really hiring like an expert or somebody else who really, like, they can even do that part, you know? Like, you don't even have to create the process for the delegation. Somebody else can come in and really do their part and do their delegation themselves also.
Which is brilliant and probably something to look into. So if you struggle with that, know that you can also delegate that out to someone who is a subject matter expert. You touched on,
like even being able to get a business manager, you know, and that's somebody who can then tell you, hey, you need to do this and this. It's like, all right, like, instead of you even trying to figure out how to fix your business sometimes. I mean, not fix it, you know, like how to make it run more efficiently and things like that.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent idea. That would have been cool to have. Maybe we'll have someone on one day to talk about like some of those things, subject matter expert wise.
Yeah, that would be good. So we could take some notes.
Hell yeah, that's all I'm like, this is purely selfish, purely a selfish play here. So you touched on it a little bit and you mentioned scale and a couple other things, but why is delegation important, like for businesses? Like, how is it helpful? Why is it important?
It's helpful, I think, because it allows you to build a more efficient team and a stronger team. If people understand what to do, why they're doing it, and they're sold on, the context and the reasoning and the objective, and if they feel comfortable and feel like they know what they're doing, then I think that makes your whole team overall a little bit more strong, things moving a little bit more effectively, and also, have a good morale around the team as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it also helps you develop your skills as a leader, and become a better manager and a better person, like to communicate things whenever you're having to create these systems or lead people. Like, it just helps increase your propensity in that area.
The most important thing I would say to me is that it helps you to scale, and it helps you to have a little bit more free time, and maybe not free time, but you have more time to focus on, like we said, the things that is your like main superpower, or where you should be more effective in your company. So when you're trying to do everything, like, you burn out so fast. When you're trying to do everything, you can't even get everything done. So it's like tasks on Mondays, you're doing on Fridays. And it's hard to do like sales and do the work, and so by delegating, now you have the time to focus on the things that will actually help your business move forward.
Definitely. It also gives an opportunity to highlight people's skills. Like we talked about, hiring a subject matter expert for X, Y, and Z, not even just for business management, but maybe for graphic design. Like, if you out here on Canva struggling for 6 hours to make a flyer, you probably could have hired somebody to do one for a hell of a lot cheaper and save some time. So this could lead to an improvement of quality in your business, efficiency in the way that it runs, just opening up other avenues by highlighting other people's strong skill sets.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I don't think people even realize a lot of times how easy it is to do that, and like what those options look like. For example, you can go on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. You can find somebody who for $10 will create 20 social media posts for you. You can find somebody who will create your podcast art for you. You can find somebody who will call your friends and sing happy birthday. Like, you can find anything. So like, there's so many of these spaces where you can find folks who are freelancing and doing kind of like gigs in different spaces, where, in the amount of time, honestly, like it might seem, like you said, to do like a Canva flyer or something, somebody else could do it for like not even a lot of money necessarily. So there are so many places to where it doesn't have to feel like you're doing like this whole hiring somebody and like, there's all extra involved things, but you can start to explore by going online. Go just Google the thing you're looking for, and you probably can find people who, and then look at their reviews, look at their past work, all that stuff, and be able to figure that all out.
Mm-hmm. And
that was an aside.
Yeah, no, that's real. And like you said, whenever I was talking to Alexia about like, oh, I hired an assistant, but like I'm struggling because I don't know what systems to create. She's like, there's a person you can hire that will do that part for you. And it's like, oh, I'd never even heard of that before or thought about it. Like, I'm sure somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought it could exist, but I didn't know it was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Another reason why delegation is so important is because if you're doing it in a way where, in a definition, you said you allow for folks to have agency in how a thing gets done also as well, you're opening yourself up to a little bit more creativity, might have more creative solutions, a different look. Like, sure, Canva is easy to use, but like, people have better eyes for design sometimes. Like, I've been looking at the font like, oh, I don't even know, but just sometimes having more people can be better, just for the outcome of your projects, and the way things look and turn out.
Mm-hmm. 2 is better than 1. The more people have agency, the more excited they can get about things, and the more like ideas start to flow. So just increasing that buy-in and that participation, like people, how important something is to them if they feel like they actually have a piece of it. There's all these reasons why delegation is important. And even though logically, I think most people understand these, right? Like we're not islands. We can't do everything by ourselves. Like, what do you think are what some of the reasons that keep people from being able to delegate or from, not moving forward with trying to hire people to do things?
I think the number one thing, if you even have any idea to delegate, the number one reason why you may not is money. Even sometimes now I'll find myself in a space where I'm like, oh man, if client income is not but so much, or, I'm not going to feel comfortable putting more hours on folks who are working with me if, like, you have to be able to pay folks. Or even with things like Fiverr, like you might be able to get somebody to do something for $20, but you might not have that $20. And so I think that being able to pay people for their work may be something that hinders you from getting the best people or really good expert type people also.
Mm-hmm. I think another one is not knowing where to start. Like we talked about, people might not even know that you can hire these people. Like me with a business manager, like if you don't know what you don't know, and you might just feel overwhelmed, and that can keep you from starting.
Another thing I would say that keeps you from that is lack of clarity on what needs to be done in the first place. And we've been talking about this, like if you bring on an assistant, but then you're like, you do things so haphazardly that you don't know how to pass them along in a way that makes sense for them to even do. And so you're both kind of moving haphazardly instead of it actually being efficient. So lack of clarity also, I think, is a big thing.
Another big one is perfectionism, or like I would almost say with trust issues, like you don't trust other people to do it the way you want it to be done, or you feel so tied to like it being your way that you're not open to other people, which I think can really limit you.
Yeah.
And that's not
that's
saying,
a big thing for me too.
Yeah. And I'm saying that's not said to say hire anybody, because let's be real, if you care about yourself and your business and your clients and your brand, like you want to be very thoughtful with it, but also you got to let go sometimes and realize that, your way is not the best way. But I think perfectionism and that like lack of trust in others could be a big thing holding people back from it.
Yeah, definitely. And things being done is much better than you trying to let them be perfect 20 months later. And I'd be so mad too, because like if I get something to somebody, I'm like, bro, like you don't see this is not even like this, but also it's like, all right, at least you have something to start from. But again, that is important, like because there are people who can do a good job with stuff. So and there's a thin line, I think, between the people you choose and then you just being like a micromanager and or a perfectionist also. And so to your point, for sure, like taking a step back and just letting people do things, but also letting their outcomes and what they do, letting that inform you on how to be a better leader and a better delegator, to make things more clear. Like when we're doing things like video editing, for example, and I'll let them like, all right, here, do the thing. Like, and I'll tell you all the things we know we want, but for the most part, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to hinder you by telling you, do this transition, do that, where you might have did something even cooler. So kind of giving people the chance to just do what they think looks good. And now though, when I'm watching a draft of something, a video or something, now I will literally like within the program at each second where there's something, like I just put my notes, like exact notes, like I'll put such clear notes because I'd rather you just know exactly like what things to do versus to say, oh, okay, this is cool, but can you cut out 20 seconds from this? Or you may be a person where you do just say, cut out 20 seconds if you really trust what they're doing. So to me, I think it just shows like, oh, I should have been more clear about what I wanted if I don't get a certain type of thing.
I think that that's a great point. It makes me think about on the Homecoming where Beyonce is like, I'm not going to leave any more notes until all the ones that I've already left are addressed. Like, why are we here? Why am I here right now?
I never actually watched that, but I keep seeing people say that.
Yo, she literally said that in a meeting.
Make sense. Right. But that's fair. Like, you're wasting people's time if things haven't already been done, you've already said, and or if people like, if they don't need the notes also. So yeah, that's smart. And all of this too is about respecting your own time and respecting the job that needs to be done. And so in this whole like cycle of what you need to get done, the other person doing it, you checking it, whatever else. You got to be able to recognize where the weak point is if things aren't going the way you want. And that might be you, it might be them. And so it's fair to like really pay attention to that.
Man, I was about to say, and sometimes that weak point is you, and that's me pointing to myself.
Bro, always. That's why I always tell my team, I'm like, dog, like, listen, I'm bottlenecking this because I'm trying to do too much other stuff, and y'all waiting for me to tell y'all, yes, no, check this, check that. And I'm like, bro, like at some point, like I just need y'all to just run with it. So, but I think because a lot of times they've been so used to me being a little bit more involved with their tasks that it's difficult now to get away from that. And so I've just had to have some talks with them to be like, yo, like if you're going to be like the VP of marketing or running that space, I don't need to check the post. Like just you check it, and I have to trust you. And you hit me if you don't feel clear on what is the reason or, the main end of the day objectives of things. And that's why I've learned mostly that over time, I just need to get clearer and clearer and clearer on what do we do? What do we stand for? What are the values? What is this? What are those things that have to be in place? So people have at least a checklist of does it meet these requirements? Then it's like, you can make the decision. Like, I don't care, at a certain point. So yeah, I think a lot of times it's like, look, I'm slowing y'all down. So I need you to just take ownership, but I have to help them understand and feel comfortable with that also.
Absolutely. Before we get into what you've already dropped hella gems, but before we get into ways to get better at delegating, I just wanted to go through a couple of signs that you might not be delegating enough, because you may think so, but if we've been, hustlers for so long, having all these businesses and jobs, but we're solopreneurs, it can be normal for us to think like, oh, this is enough work. And so I just want to go through some signs that you might be hoarding work and not delegating enough. And the first one is you working hella long hours, like hella long hours. It's like, you should probably take a step back and evaluate that.
Yeah, I would agree. Sometimes it's called for to get to a certain level to where you can delegate, like we were saying before. But for the most part, yeah. Like, it's definitely. And it can make sense, too. Like, it can make more sense for you still to pass those things off and pay the person and still just get way more coming in. Like, it might not seem like it if you're not used to it, but it always does make sense.
Mm-hmm. Another one can be if you feel indispensable. Like, if you feel like you always have to be there, like you can't take a day off. Like, I think that's a big one too. Like, if systems and things can't run without you physically being there, that is a sign that you have to build more systems and or hire people or give things away, because you're just solopreneur. You just have a job for yourself at that point.
Yeah. And then you kept talking about ownership as well. And this is actually a really good one if you feel like you're the only one who cares. Because, how can you do be? Because I mean, sometimes, but yeah, that means like they don't have enough ownership. That's fair. That's actually pretty. So I would say that like give them a little more space and a little more agency and let them actually care about what they're doing, and you'll probably get a better result also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then are people always asking you like, hey, happy to help. How can I help you? How can I support you? Like if you have a team and they're constantly asking, then you might need to evaluate.
You ain't giving them nothing.
You might need to evaluate. You ain't
giving them nothing. Yeah, dang. That's how my intern, shout out Gift.
Hey, shout out to Gift though.
Me like, yo, what can I do? What can I do? I'm like, bro, I got stuff, but also I don't know. Like it's weird because you be able to help with stuff, but also you don't know. And that's I guess the time to take a step back and like list the shit out and see like, okay, what could you do? Shit, I need to do that, but that could take a whole day doing that too. Maybe it's worth it though. So I think I'm probably gonna have to do that before the week starts.
Light bulb, boop.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, but those are really good. Those are good signifiers that you could do a lot more.
Mm-hmm. And so now some ways to get better at it. Lexi already said this, and I'm going to say it again, but getting clear on what, first, like your goals, on your vision, on all those things, but also what you need help with. And then being able to prioritize that another way that I look at it is my strengths and weaknesses. So if you suck at Canva, you shouldn't probably spend all of your time there. If you suck at video editing, you should probably talk to somebody who's good at that. Or finances, especially finances. Make sure you get a good finance person, or spreadsheets. But thinking about that could be an easy first dipping your toe into the pool of delegation, is thinking about what you suck at or what you're not as strong in, and then getting someone who's an expert at that.
Mm-hmm. Another way to get better is to create better systems, or systems if you don't have any at all, that you can just hand off to people. So also, just delegating by itself isn't helpful if that person then leaves or something happens and now they just had all that information also. And so it'd be most beneficial for you to create like operations manuals. And I've both done that myself, and I've had the people in that position do that, where I've told them, because I hate that, like trying to do stuff and write it at the same time. But I've had them be like, yo, as you're doing things, jot it down. Jess was really good with that, actually. And then I would be like, yo, just jot things down. Don't worry about it. Like, make it like an outline. This is what you're doing with these different tasks. And then she would send it to me. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. But now let's add in the screenshots, or, make it a little more detailed. Like, literally, like, go here, click this, do this, do this. If this happens, then do this. If this happens, do that. And it just makes it much more clear for just your operations in general, I would say.
Absolutely. I'm not applauding McDonald's or supporting them in any type of way, but that's how they were able to scale up to their company, is by breaking down the pieces like a factory. Like, one person does this, but it's so self-explanatory that you can take that person out and another person could slide in there and do the same thing. So it's creating those systems. Lexi created them for Carlie's Couch, because I didn't know how to edit videos or do any of those things. And so shout out to that. I mean, I did
do it this week.
You know what I'm saying? She was like, they're in, check the drive. They're in there. Like, oh God. Which, to be fair, I was doing my workout videos, but like pairing audio and stuff like that. And there's like little screenshots and pictures. And so just making sure that it's self-explanatory, leaving yourself open for questions.
I had to learn from John Holland. Shout out John with Premiere and all that. Cause also I didn't know, but once I got it, then I had to just create that. And even I had to follow it at first. And then, you just get it after that.
You see, because your girl don't have to use the manuals no more. And then, so I guess they work. And then the last one I think is really important and kind of encapsulates everything, is letting go. You can't delegate if you're trying to hold on to everything. But if you're holding on to everything, you're not creating space for new things to come to you. So sometimes you have to let go of things so that you can be the strategy person or the vision person or whatever your strengths are in your business. So let it go. See how it goes. If it doesn't work out with that person, get a new one. And then also creating a feedback loop, meaning, so you have your intern or you hire that person, like, what does success look like for that position? Giving them space to either create the manuals or ask you questions and to improve upon that process, but having a feedback loop with them and you to make sure that, what's being delegated is understood in the way you want it to be.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add to this that we alluded to already would be to explore your sources of people and other resources, which there are so many now. Like, whatever the task is, you can probably look it up and find it. But between Fiverr, Upwork, I have like a Twitter list of like graphic designers and people. A lot of times if you use social media and, just look for folks or make an announcement about it, there are also people who are really trying to find work to do as well. So there's lots of different avenues to explore.
Absolutely. So if this sounds like something that can help you, any of your friends with, and they're like businesses or entrepreneurs, whatever's going on, please share this with them. Feel free to drop us a comment at Carlie's Couch on Twitter and Instagram. Let us know how you've gotten better at delegation, or if you suck at it, what part of it is the hardest for you, and if any of this helps.
Yeah, and read that chapter in Tim Ferriss' joint too, if you can. So like, going back to the very first thing I said here, that put me on to like the first virtual assistant I even got, was because they were just talking about it, or he was talking about it, and how little it cost. And to something you said, I didn't realize that it didn't have to cost anything. Like, it could be like $2 an hour, or it could be $7 an hour, or whatever. Like, you can find it. You just have to know that that's out there.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that peace of mind is priceless, and you shouldn't spend all your time stressing over trying to do everything when you don't have to.
Yeah. I'll check out Emus too, because he really talks about how to take all the different tasks that you have and like breaking them down into those different positions, and then how do you start to fill them out? So it's like you may be taking up a lot of different things, but how do you slowly determine like which stuff makes the most sense to start filling in, and then till you actually at the point where you just actually focus on that one thing.
Yeah, so definitely check those out. The E-Myth and the 4-Hour Work Week. And then this week's shout out is SKNMUSE, Skin and Bodycare, elevating the beauty experience for Black women. They're handcrafted with natural products based in Los Angeles and featured on Beyonce, LUSA, BET, Crown Mag. So shout out to Ezinne and her company. She was in the Black business commercial that Damo shot for BET a while back. So she was also highlighted there. Yeah, small world. But shout out to everybody for elevating this year. So check them out. They will be linked in the show notes, SKNMUSE on Instagram and .com.
Check them out for your gifts this year too.
Mm-hmm. The holidays are coming up. Support local businesses, Black businesses, women-owned businesses, people of color, all of those things. Use your dollars to try to keep those places open and going. And then this week's question of the week is, what would the title of your mixtape be? Like your debut, like mixtape, like your first one.
I feel like I used to have a note in my phone that had a bunch of things in it. And now I don't recall anything. But it would be something melancholy, like I'm already gone, or something like. What would yours be?
Man, the first corny one, which it would not be. It was like, you always tease me, more love, more light. No. It'd probably be like, stop and smell the roses, flowers, or stop, something like that, with some nature photography.
Mine would be like the flowers are dead.
It's a double-sided album. It's the Love Below and Speaker Box, you know. But
nah, you getting 5 tracks. That's it.
Man, I'm at least 6. And a voicemail.
More.
Dang, so if y'all want to be my voicemail, y'all can go ahead and call us and leave one. It's 323. What's our number? 323.
Oh, wow. That would be funny. Let's see. Girl, I don't know what it is.
Dang.
It's 323. Hold on. I'm going to for you 323-505-2030.
There we go. So go ahead and call and leave that. Call with questions, topics, anything. Yeah, we appreciate you for tuning in. Stay safe during the holidays. Support small businesses.
And stay alive.
Yep. We'll holler at y'all next week.